Hello, and welcome to Realign Journey, the unfiltered guide to self-discovery and reconnection. I'm Sierra Sambrowski, your host, and together we'll investigate and discover the ways we have lost touch with our true selves and explore ways we can reconnect to it. This season, I'm kicking off each episode by asking my guests to tell us about a moment or an experience that was really pivotal for them, that helped them to see their lives or themselves or what they were planning on doing in a very different way. This week, I have with me Bryan Driscoll. Bryan is a first-time author with a passion for inspiring kindness and creating positive change in the world. 20 years ago, a stranger literally picked him up off the street and gave him a plate of spaghetti and a bedroom he had to share with an oversized cat. This small act of kindness sparked an unending desire to pay it forward, ultimately leading to his book, The Goodness Game. He runs a successful digital marketing agency and is an active real estate investor in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, with three young boys. If you asked him, he'd tell you his biggest strength is getting back up when life punches him in the face, which has happened quite a few times and sometimes, admittedly, is deserved. Hi, Bryan. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me on.
I love that you throw that in at the end of your bio. I always say sometimes I was so stubborn to the way life was trying to push me that I got kicked in the teeth and shoved down the steps backwards. So I feel like we have kindred connection there around
Right,
that.
right.
So, Bryan, kick us off. Tell us there's a significant lead in your bio, but maybe that's not the one that comes to mind for you right in this moment that you feel like most inclined to talk about, but maybe it is. What would be one of the most pivotal experiences or moments in your life that really realigned you?
I would say the one in my bio probably is. So there's
Hmm.
probably a couple, but that one. So I'll tell you the story, right?
Yeah, please
So,
do. I'm dying to hear the full story.
okay, so I'm 44 years old now, and this happened when I was 18. So it happened back in 1998. So I was always a troublemaker, got in a lot of trouble when I was younger and just like rambunctious. And one time I got pissed at my parents. I'm like, you know what? I'm out of here. I'm running away. So I went down to the Greyhound station in Pittsburgh. I had like 200 bucks in my pocket. Grabbed a duffel bag, threw some underwear and stuff in there, and I'm like, I'm out. Went down to the Greyhound station and said, hey, give me the next bus leaving, which turned out it was going to Orlando. And keep in mind,
Oh.
this was before Uber, before cell
Yeah,
phones.
yeah. Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
so I'm just on a whim. I'm like, okay, I'm out of here. And on a Greyhound, they don't go straight. Like it might take 12 hours to drive from Pittsburgh or 14 down to Orlando. Took like over like a day on
Yeah,
because
yeah,
if
that's
it,
far.
yeah. So what happened was I was driving down there on the last stretch. I met a couple, and I was talking to them. They're like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I don't know." And it was almost midnight. So I'm gonna try to find a hotel or motel or something. They're like, "Well, why don't you come back to our place and we'll call around and see if we can find you a place and drop you off." So I went back to their place, and I remember calling. We pulled out the yellow pages. We were sitting at their kitchen table, and they had one of those yellow rotisserie like phones on the wall,
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
and then we were calling around and we found a hotel. It was 25 bucks a night. It was a day's in. So they dropped me off. I'm like, okay, cool. Now I'm off, right? I got 200 bucks roughly, $25 a night. I'm like, what am I going to do? I have no job, no plan, no nothing. So
Hmm.
my plan was there was a Publix right down the street. I went there and went in and I tried to get a job. And they give me the application, and you can't fill out an application if you don't have an address or a phone number. So
Mm.
I'm like, what am I gonna do? So my plan is I'm gonna grab the manager and sell myself to get a job. So I'm talking with him, and it turns out you don't get paid for a couple weeks, which I didn't think about anyways. He's
Right.
even if I could talk him into it, I'm like, if I could get a paycheck for a couple weeks, like I gotta pay to get food like in the next couple days.
Yeah.
So my backup plan, like I started thinking, it's like, okay, what am I gonna do now? I found out there are places in Orlando, or there were then, it's called like a job labor pool, where
Mhm.
you just show up, you show up for the day, people come, they look around and pick people that they want to work, that they want to work for them for the day, and they pay you at the end of the day. There's
Hmm.
no backgrounds, no applications, no nothing.
Hmm.
So I did that.
I don't know if
Got
that exists anywhere else in the country besides maybe California, but Florida. I was in
yeah.
construction for a long time, and yeah, the labor
Yeah,
pool
so
thing is
yeah,
real.
it's like
It's still alive and well in the state of Florida. I don't know about anywhere else in the country, but go
I think
ahead.
I think Texas has it too. I was talking with somebody, said Texas does. Um, but yeah, so I'm there. I'm like, okay, so and it's manual labor. It's in Florida. It's freaking hot.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so I'm down there, and the job was to carry scaffolding all day long, just back and forth.
Oh.
So looking back on it now, I'm almost positive that I was working at the animal kingdom when they were building the tree. You know that big tree in the center?
Oh, yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was the scaffolding they were using for that, like that we were just doing. So
Wow.
yes, it's pretty cool. So I'm doing that and I'm running out of money. Like I'm making 25 bucks. My room costs 25 bucks. I don't have any money for food. So one night I just didn't have enough for the hotel. I'm like, oh crap, what am I gonna do? So
Hmm.
I had an idea. I'm like, well, the Greyhound station runs 24 hours a day. I'm gonna go there and hope they don't notice I'm not waiting for a bus and basically
Hmm.
be homeless. I'm gonna try to sleep there for the night.
Hmm.
So I'm walking to the Greyhound station through like a C-class neighborhood. It wasn't a ghetto, but it wasn't like a real nice neighborhood.
Hmm.
And I'm walking through, and then all of a sudden, some lady pulls up in a Geo Tracker, like one of those old black, like really
Yes.
small cars.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah, so she pulls up, and she looks over, and her adult son was in the passenger seat. She looks over him. She's like, "Hey, it doesn't look like you belong here. What's going on? Where are you going?" So at the time, I thought nothing of it. Like some random lady just pulls
It
over, you
it
know,
was a long time ago. I mean, back in the day, we could, I mean, I'm a little bit older than you, but we could still hitchhike.
right? Yeah, yeah. So, and I'm like, but who does it? 'Cause I didn't have a thumb up or anything. I'm just hanging
Mhm.
out, walking. Um, Turns out what she did, I don't remember specifically what we talked about, but I remember I'm in the back of her tracker now. She's taking me back to her house, giving me a place to stay. It's like 50 miles outside of Orlando. I remember she had it was like a ranch house, like a one-story house, had a white fence, and they had a horse. So it was weird because it
Oh.
wasn't a farm. It was just like a regular house. And then when you went in, they gave me spaghetti dinner and they gave me a place to stay for a couple of nights. And when you walked in, it's like you look down to the right and there's a hallway, and the first door on the right was my room. It had a mattress in it. And it was technically the cat's room.
Mhm.
And I don't know what kind of cat it was. It looked like a cheetah. And when it was sitting, it was probably like 2 feet tall or something. It was like abnormally large
Oh, damn. It was
animal. So
spotted like that?
it
Like a
was
cheetah?
spotted like that. Yep. Yeah,
Oh,
it was like oranges with the spots and everything, but it wasn't like cheetah size, but it was like three times the size of a normal cat.
whoa.
Yeah. So so I remember it 'cause it's just like odd things that I remember. And
Yeah.
I don't even remember her name, right?
I was gonna ask you, I was thinking, like, do you know where she is? Do you stay in
Nope.
touch with her? You don't even remember her name?
No, I don't even remember her name. I think her son's name was
Wow.
John, but I don't remember her name. And what they did for me was they put me up in their place. They let me stay there for a couple nights. And then her husband worked in the hotel industry. So they got me an interview. I was going for a job and they put me up in a comfort inn suites or like one of those hotels. He had a discount and she
Yeah.
spotted me a couple $100. Deal was when I got my first paycheck to pay her back.
Yeah.
Then a hurricane was coming in at the same time.
Oh,
And
Lord.
eventually I came back to Pittsburgh. I ended up back here in Pittsburgh, left the job and just didn't work out. Right.
Did you pay
So
her back?
I don't even know who she is. That's the thing. So I come
Oh,
back like a
no.
knucklehead when I'm 18. I'm like, I had her contact info at that point,
Uh-huh.
and then life just went. I'm out partying and drinking and doing stupid stuff. And then the
Right?
longer it went, she started popping up in my head. I'm like, you know what? I owe this lady money. I need to get a hold of her. And by the time like I was making money in a job and like committed to like reach out to her, I didn't know who she was anymore. Like her contact info was lost. It was probably a couple years later. Um,
Mm,
so I tried getting like I was asking my mom because my mom eventually I got a hold of my mom down there and she had her info, but she lost it as well. I'm like, sucks, right?
yeah.
So and you know how it is too. Like if you owe someone a debt, like I don't want to be in debt.
Yeah,
Like
it hangs over you. Well, I mean,
right.
I guess it does depending on what your character is like.
Well, true, true.
But
So
yeah, it
this
would
like
hang
kept
over
like
me.
yeah, it kept nagging at me like the older I got, like the more responsible I got, things like that. Because when I was young, like at that age, I'm going out to the bar until 2 o'clock in the morning and then going to work at 6. Like my lifestyle just wasn't
Yeah.
there, like
Yeah.
where I was in life. But like once I started getting older, so I saw the movie Pay It Forward. You ever see that?
Yes. Yes, I
So
have.
yeah, so I saw that movie, and the whole premise is it's like on Pay It Forward, the kid helps one person instead of them helping him back or paying him back, they pay it forward to three people, and it's like a compound effect.
Mm-hmm.
So in my head, I'm like, okay, if I can't pay her back, I'm gonna pay it forward. So that kind of started my mental being. It's like, okay, it's scratching the itch of me feeling bad because I'm not paying her back, and I was a jerk and just bailed, right?
Yeah. Now, how
So
old about were you? I mean, you said a
when I
couple years, but
couple years, well, probably about 22's, probably 3 4 years after I started thinking about it.
okay, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
Actually, because when you think about most 20, early 20 somethings, particularly boys, I'm not gonna lie, the fact that you started to have a real conscience and it was bothering you is a good thing. That's a good
right. Yeah.
sign.
Yeah. So I start just doing these things and to help people out. I'm like, okay, number one, it feels good when you help people out. I did realize that, but I was just doing it. And I started thinking, I'm like, I wonder if like the pay it forward, because when you pay it forward to someone, you do things, you don't see the outcome.
Right.
Like it's like everyone talks about you can do small things, make a big difference, ripple effect, all this. I'm like, well, I believe it, but and I'm a marketer, so I like to see like KPIs, and I want to see
Mm-hmm.
like the data. So
Mm-hmm.
I said, you know what? And this was 10 years after. This is 2009. So like fast forward,
Yeah.
I was sitting there thinking, I'm like, I wonder if I can prove when you do something small, it will actually make a big difference. So I remember I was up late at one night in my bedroom, and my brain was just like racing.
Yeah.
So I hopped on a computer, and what I did was I just like took the mouse and like scrolled it around on Craigslist, and I picked a city, which was Chicago. I said, okay, what I'm going to do to test this is I'm going to put an ad in on Craigslist in Chicago saying, hey, I'm going to come to your city, help you out for free. All I want you to do is pay it forward. I'm like, I don't know if people are going to respond. I don't know anything. So I put this ad up there, and I start getting bombarded with emails. Some are like crazy emails. Some are like, hey, this is great. But then I had 5 people hit me up that truly needed help with like small things too. Like one guy needed a ride to pick up a car. One girl needed help just taking down a swing set. One guy was helping someone else demo a bathroom and just needed help carrying debris for a couple hours. One guy needed a battery, and then the fifth person worked in a homeless shelter and just needed. He's like, yeah, if you have extra clothes, bring them up. So I'm like, okay,
Wow.
yeah. So on a whim, I hop in my car on a Friday. It was about an 8 hour drive, give or take. I go up to Chicago. I didn't have any money at the time either. Like just like rolling, the bootstrapping it. I had a small camcorder, one of the ones with like the flip out thing.
Yep. Yep.
I documented a little bit of the trip. I didn't know what I was going to use it for or anything. And when it helped these people out, came back, and I remember on the way back thinking, boy, this is freaking awesome. Like this is what I was meant to do because I just felt really good, right? So I come back and I didn't tell anyone about it. Like it's just I just did it. So I come back, and then I pulled out Windows Movie Maker and then took this video, compiled it into a video and stuck it on YouTube. And then what happened was I uploaded it and I started seeing people. They're like, "Oh yeah, hey, you know what? That was really great. I went out and did something for someone else." And I'm like, "Okay, if you do something, that right there proved to me that one act could like snowball."
Mm-hmm.
But then I had the media hit me up, and because it kind of went viral, and they hit me up and wanted to do a story on it. The deal was I gave them, I'm like, hey, I'll do it, but I don't want to be the face of it. This isn't, I want to see like just what happens with the impact, not like a single person.
Right.
One person agreed. Her name was Gabrielle. She was with the Windy Citizen.
Uh-huh.
She wrote an article on it and it went worldwide. Like it just got spread.
Wow.
Yeah, which was cool, especially because like I didn't have my name on it or anything. Everything was anonymous. So I'm like, this is really cool. It now proved that you can do one act, and like I don't know if lives were affected or something. It made front pages of newspapers, so I'm assuming it had a good effect there.
Yeah.
But that's kind of how everything started in my head, like just thinking, okay, I can prove it, and then how can I inspire other people to do it also without, because like with helping people, it's like real cringy to like you don't brag about what you do. You know what I mean? It's like you should, in my opinion, you just kind of like help
That's
people
not
and you
why
just
you
kind of
do
like
it.
do it.
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah, I was gonna say that's not really why you should be doing it. I mean,
Right. So I'm like, okay, how can I inspire other people to do things? without me telling people like what I do, because I don't tell anyone about it. So like over 15 years, it just rattled in my brain. And then last year, I'm like, I met the right people, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to compile this into a book, and I'm going to make it into a game. I think that will accomplish what I'm trying to do in like a acceptable way in the world today, if that makes sense.
Okay. Okay. What were
So that's
the
where the goodness game came.
limitations around what was acceptable in the world, I wonder?
Well, my it's just in my head because
Okay.
like I'm sitting there thinking, so if I were to make, say there's a lot of coaches in the world, right?
Yep.
And most people coach based on what they have done in the past. It's like, hey, I've done this, I've proved this, or whatever. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, if someone was talking to me saying, hey, here's what I did, I went out and helped this person, I went and did this, and I went and did this, that would turn me off. So I assume that would turn other people off too. I'm like, that's kind of just cringy. You know what I mean?
Potentially.
Right. So that's where everything came from, though.
So the idea around it was how do you frame this up in a way that makes people feel inspired?
Right. Makes them feel inspired. Shows them people because I think a lot of people want to make a difference in the world too. They think they have to do something huge. It's really the small things, in my opinion, that make a
Mm-hmm.
difference. And I had to find a way that I was comfortable being behind it too. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like when I did that Craigslist thing, I was not comfortable being a face because it wasn't about me. Like I don't want it to be about me. So now I found a way, let's make it into a game. So it's still, I don't want it to be about me. It's about the game and how people can do things in their own life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean. Okay, yeah. Okay, so the whole Craigslist thing was pretty genius on your part. Like, and also really scary. Like that could have went horribly wrong.
Big time.
It could have went horribly wrong. Um, so tell me about the game, because now I'm very curious about this. What's the framework of the game?
Sure. So have you ever seen Fight Club? You know about Fight Club?
I know about it. I
All right.
guess maybe I'm not a big TV movie person. I didn't have a television at all for like 20 years, so but I think I have seen it. Is that the one with Brad Pitt in it?
Brad Pitt, right.
Okay. Yeah.
So the
I
whole
saw it.
premise of Fight Club is you don't talk about Fight Club. So you're in the Fight Club, you get into it and you don't speak about it.
Great.
So I'm thinking, okay, let's break it down into roles if you want to play the goodness game. So the first role is I came up with a couple roles. First role is give without remembering. So if we're gonna play the game, we're gonna
Ooh.
do things and we're not gonna talk about it. Right? Make sense? So
Yeah.
so the rules are you can do something and help somebody out and they don't even know who helped you is the first way. The second way is you can do something you know about it and the person you know helps about it, but nobody else knows. Like we're not bragging about it.
Hmm.
The only condition where other people can know about it, you can tell other people, is if it's to invite them to play the game or inspire them or help them, right? For
Hmm.
example, if a neighbor needs, say a neighbor's sick or had someone pass away or something like that, and you want to talk with all the other neighbors saying, hey, you know what? Let's give them dinner every night for a week. Now you're talking about other people and talking about what you're doing, but the intent is to help somebody, not brag about yourself. So you're not trying to
Hmm.
lift yourself up. You're trying to accomplish the goal.
Hmm.
That's the only way it's acceptable to like involve other people that aren't involved, like the giver or receiver.
Hmm.
Make sense?
Yeah, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Let me
So
ask
that's
you
that's
one thing. I was say, let me ask you one question around that though.
yeah.
So the fact that you created these rules about making sure that you're not talking about it and that people's intentions are good, um, have you had a lot of experience with people kind of bragging on the good things they've done, the charitable
I
things they've done? Is that where part of that comes from? Wanting to
It
create
is.
rules around it?
I see it on social media more. And I see it
Mm.
more in marketing, businesses trying to market. Like, for example, I'll see these videos on TikTok where someone's walking and they're making a video trying to make something viral. They drop money and then they wait for the other person to pick it up and then they give it back to them or something.
Oh,
Or they
that's
see a video.
contrived. Yeah, that's fake.
Yeah,
It's
or
just
they see
fake.
like the homeless people. They're like, "Hey, you know what? I'm gonna do something," and they document it. And you can tell it's professional, but they're documenting, "Hey, I'm gonna help this homeless person, but I want to post it on social media because my intentions are to get views. My intentions are not to help that person. It's like it's marketing."
Yeah,
So,
right.
so that's what I see, and I'm like, you know what?
So
That's
that was what
I
you were
get it.
exposed to. Okay.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Because
So that's what kind of makes me see that.
yeah, I was saying because it strikes me right away like I I personally wouldn't have thought like, oh, I need to put some kind of like disclaimer or some kind of framework around you must be doing this in an anonymous way, in a pure way. And like it wouldn't have occurred to me to include that in
Right.
the game. So
Yeah.
that's why I was like, hold on, I want to ask you, what has led you to this place where you felt like you needed to include that?
Yeah, that's why. Mainly, it's mainly to keep intentions pure.
Okay.
It's like
Okay.
because they say the purest way of giving is when nobody knows.
Well, of
And
course,
then
yeah.
the second purest way is, well, and then a recipient, and then you know what I mean, even in the Bible and stuff too.
Yeah,
So
it's
it's
an
just
expansion of your own heart and your own place of understanding love and abundance. That's where real giving comes from. It's if it's not coming from that place, in my opinion, then you're not really being generous.
right.
Then you are creating a mutual exchange. And that is
Yep.
not the same thing. That's
Right.
not giving when there's a
Exactly.
mutual exchange.
Yep. So that's the first rule. So then I started thinking too, like just about my experience. I'm like, okay, rule number two is you have to realize not everybody's your assignment.
Oh,
So
damn, that's a whole life lesson.
right. Yeah, exactly.
That's a whole lesson for life. Not
Yeah,
everyone is your assignment.
yeah, because you figure once you get into helping, like a lot of people mistake kindness for weakness, right? And a lot of people burn out or they get involved with the wrong people. For example, I always say, like, if somebody came to me with a drug problem or mental problem, that's above my pay grade. Like, I'm not
Yep.
experienced, I'm not qualified to help them.
Yep.
If I got involved in that situation, like, I could potentially do harm. So it's like, okay, know the people that you can help, where you can't, and know where you cannot help and point them in a direction or like push them to somebody that is their assignment, like that's their what they're built for.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like you have to be cognizant of that because when you start, especially when you just start helping people out, you get a high. It's like
Mm-hmm.
a helper's high. You're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I just want to keep doing this. And then you can either burn out or you get involved in the wrong situation. So it's like, okay, let's be intentional about this and think, okay, what specifically can I help people with? What can't I? And let's make sure not to harm people or get involved. And also stay away from the tricksters and schemers. Like some people are just going to see a nice person and they try taking advantage too. So you got to be aware of that as well.
Well, I mean, on that note, if you're really doing it for the right intention, can you let that go?
What do you mean?
Like, if all I really care about is being able to be some kind of blessing to somebody else or spread my goodness, my good fortune, whatever, however you want to say it, and somebody takes advantage of it, somebody tricks me or manipulates me into it, is there a place where, I mean, obviously you don't want that to happen all the time. You're not trying to be like Target,
Right.
but if it happens, isn't there a place where you can say, well, in some way they must have needed it. In some
Yeah.
way, I know that I did them good, even if their own perception was they got over on me.
That's a good point. So there's two ways I look at that. So my dad told me when I was really young, we give money to the homeless. You see a guy on the side of the road. And I'm like, well, dude, what if he goes out and like buys drugs or alcohol? He says, my job's just to help them out. What they
Right.
do
It's
with
not
it
to
is none of my
decide.
business. And
Exactly.
then say 9 out of 10 of them do. That's one thing. It's like, hey, maybe you get to think maybe you don't know who it is, but one of those people are actually going to make a difference.
Hmm.
So 100% with you there. I'm talking more about the lines of I have a friend that she gets involved with people and she'll help them, but then once they see her kindness, then they keep coming back. And then
That's called enabling.
yeah, exactly. And they, right?
That's that's not getting tricked and schemed. That's being an enabler, and that's about her own codependence. Sorry, friend, if
Yeah.
you're
So
listening, that is
when
your own codependence coming into play.
there's a lot of people like that though, because then now you're in the web. It's like, okay, now we're involved. And you have to be aware. It's like, okay, if I helped someone and gave you tools in the past that could help you and you didn't use them, but now you're coming back to me again, you have to be aware of that. Be like, okay, and just be aware. You can make the decision, I'm going to keep doing it, or make the decision not, but be aware in the situation so you don't get taken advantage of.
Have self-awareness. And that's what I was thinking around this whole thing. Like I was like, if I broke this down or reframe this in a different way, it's about actually taking your own inventory in your own capacity, like where my capacity is.
Right.
Where is my capacity to do good, both in talents and skills and resources, and also in a way to do it in a way that uplifts and empowers other people and doesn't enable them?
Yep.
Because that's not empowering or uplifting to keep giving somebody handouts or allow them to.
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm. Hmm.
Which brings up the next rule then, it's find your helping style. Exactly what you're talking about.
Oh,
So
okay.
so I broke the next thing and it's like, okay, some people are built for certain things, some people are not, right? But everybody's built for something. So I broke
Yeah.
it down into five different helping styles. Like you have a financial helper, empathetic helper, like a connector, a thinker, and just different styles. And what the whole point is to think, what am I built for? So the fifth one's the sweat helper. So it's
Mm.
like for example, me, if somebody needs their grass cut for some reason, I can do it. I'm not the sweat helper. I'm not the guy to help call to change your brakes, do the manual things, just because it drains my energy. It's just not, I don't enjoy doing it. Same thing, I don't enjoy working with kids. My wife's a paraprofessional in a school. She loves it. She's really empathetic. That
Mm-hmm.
drains all my energy out of me. I'm the
Mm-hmm.
guy, it's like, if you want to brainstorm, if you're brand new in business, maybe you want to brainstorm, maybe I can save you some mistakes. If you want to talk, if you want to be connected, I'm a connector and I'm a financial helper. Those are the things that I can get behind. So it's, and other people are different. So it goes through all a different scenario. It's like, okay, find out what your style is, because then you can do what is fit for you. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like everything's not fit for you.
Mm-hmm.
So, and on the website too, I have a test you can take that just tells you what the helping style is. Most people are more than one
Yeah.
helping style.
Is it kind of correlated to like the love languages? Do you know? Are you familiar with
Kind of.
them?
It's not as complex. Yeah, I am familiar with the love languages. Um, but it's very similar to that, except it's not as complex. It's basically, I just give a scenario. It's like, okay, we're going to help the homeless. Here's all the things that need help with this organization. You pick the things that you're excited about, and then it kind of dictates, okay, here's possibly what your style is.
Okay. Okay.
You know?
That's
So
very helpful.
yeah, because like even you're going to be different than me. You're going to enjoy different things
Hmm.
than I do.
Hmm.
You know?
Yeah. I enjoy some sweat helping. I'm not gonna lie. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, can I physically do that for you? Absolutely. Let's get it done.
Right. And here's the cool thing too. Like, say for example, I don't like cleaning my house.
Hmm.
Some people love cleaning. They're like, oh, I put the radio on, I relax. Me, I'm like, dude, that kills me. It takes me all day to do something that should take someone an hour. You
Right.
know?
We're all built differently. We're all built
Right.
for sure. Do you know
So
anything about, you probably don't, but do you know anything about human design? Have you ever heard of that?
mm-mm.
Hmm. I would say your chart would be interesting, super fascinating. So instead of it being a personality test, it's based on who you are really meant to be. And yeah, anyway,
That would be interesting. Point
I
me in
would
a
say
direction.
I have some ideas about some aspects of who you are just by how pronounced they are. So I would be curious. I was just wondering if you happen to know
Yeah,
that.
point me in a direction sometime so I can check that out.
Okay. All
It'd
right,
be
I will. I will. I will.
So I'm sitting there thinking, it's like, okay, find out who you are. And then in business, what I do, I learned a while ago, it's something called an energy audit.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you take a piece of paper, draw a line down the center, and in business, it says write down everything you do every single day for a week, and either put it on the side that gives you energy or takes energy away.
Mm-hmm.
And the stuff on it takes your energy, you delegate that and do more of the stuff that gives you energy.
Hmm.
So I
That's a
started
good
thinking,
practice, not even just for business, but for
right,
any part of your life, particularly if you're feeling burnt out, feeling really dissatisfied, depressed, anything. Your life's falling apart, your relationships are going away, whatever. It's a good thing.
exactly. Yeah, so what I did is I'm like, okay, this would make sense here too, because we're talking helping styles. So it's like, okay, think about everything you do in your week, just like you're talking about. And then you find the things that give you energy, meaning I can go do this. Like, for example, public speaking or helping people or thinking or all that stuff. I can do that all day long. And at the end of the day, I'm going to be rolling.
Mm-hmm.
Versus
Hmm.
if I'm babysitting or something, at the end of the day, I'm going to be so beat, I'm just going to go to bed.
Yeah.
So once you find that out, it's like, okay, you found out what gives you energy. You found out what your helping style is. Now you have a direction, right? It's like, okay, here's your area on what you could possibly do and not get burnout, feel good about yourself, and not be doing a whole bunch of things you hate,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So the next framework in the rules are budget. So it's like, okay, we're talking about all this stuff. It's like, okay, now you got a budget, depending on what type of helper you are. You might be budgeting your time, might be budgeting your money or your energy. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're a financial helper, maybe you say, hey, every time I get paid, I take a certain percent of my money and I just put it in a separate account that's budgeted for giving when an opportunity pops up. Then when opportunities pop up, that money's sitting there. You have a budget. The reason I started thinking that way is back in the day, I started helping people and I didn't have much money, and I'd actually give money away that I needed and put myself in a worse situation, right?
Yeah.
So it's like I started saying, okay, let's budget that, or even time. I know a lot of people when they're helping people, because it's like a helper's high. You feel good when you're helping people. It's like you need to make sure you budget your time because you don't want to burn out. Like burnout's real.
I was just say, and I would think that's actually probably one of the biggest ways and places that people kind of get carried away is with their time, is that you stop being managing your own time and then letting what other people need or the ways that you can serve kind of dominate. And then what happens is your own sort of priorities get pushed back.
100%.
Yeah, I would say that that probably happens a lot,
I think it
potentially.
happens, yeah, a lot, a lot. Especially because what if your helping style is getting involved with organizations and helping them? When
Uh-huh.
you get involved, charities and organizations don't have much help. So when they
Yeah,
see someone helping, sometimes it's easy to get roped into, hey, we'll do this, and then you're in there like 30 hours a week. So
I
all it is, it's saying intentionally, say, okay, here's the time I have, and then it might be like, hey, I have 3 hours on Saturday, or it might be like, hey, I have 20 minutes per day to do something. And keep in mind, the stuff we're doing is small. It could be like buying someone coffee. It could just be listening to a friend that just needed an ear. You know what I mean? So,
know.
but what we're doing is that the role is just be intentional, create a
Yeah.
budget so you don't harm yourself. Also, like we're trying to help other people, not hurt ourselves as well.
Yeah, because I will say with total transparency that that is absolutely, I get really energized and excited when I can see the potential, in particular with nonprofits or like a board, and seeing the capacity because that I can contribute to them, right? Because I have all this experience and operational marketing strategy. And so I've done a lot of business development. I've worked with a lot of nonprofits. And so I'll meet somebody and I get real excited about their mission. And I can instantly see like where all their shortfalls are. And I'm like, I know how to do that. I can tell you this. I can get you here. We got, and then, yeah,
Yeah, and
and
then
then
a
I
week later, you
basically
look
end
like
up working a full-time job for free. And
yeah,
that has not served me in the past. But I personally, like I said, full transparency, I do I don't think I do as much anymore as I've worked on myself personally and my personal growth, but I had a very hard time balancing that and a very hard time internally making peace with, but I can help them, but I can help them.
right.
And so where do I like draw that line and let them not in an enabling kind of way, but like I have the capacity in the skills and intelligence and experience to be able to help them this way. So how do I let them fall short? That's
Yeah,
hard. That's a hard balance.
it's really hard. I can relate the same way because I get involved in the same situation sometimes. It's like I can see it. I want to help. It's almost like an uh overextending the boundary. Like I'm almost going into the wrong boundary because I can see it and I'm like, I need to help you out. Which sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's
It's
like a thing.
hard.
It is.
Like I said, because even if when I was young, I certainly had some very codependent natures about me. And so enabling was definitely something that I struggled with. And also, I moved to a place where I knew that, but sometimes people just have big needs. And sometimes you can fill it, but like I said, how do you cut that short? How do you go, okay, but at this point, I'm now depleting myself. At this point, I'm now taking from myself in order to give to you. And I think maybe that's really the question people have to ask themselves to try and create that budget as you've labeled it. Um, at what point does this go beyond where I can comfortably give?
Right. Yeah, 100%. It's like a bucket. It's like everyone says your bucket's overflowing or your bucket's depleted. You want to get from an overflowing bucket, so you're not
Mm-hmm.
depleting yourself, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
So, and then the last thing is just keep score. Like I'm a marketer, I want to track KPIs, like normally like key performance indicators.
Mm-hmm.
So I created a
Yeah.
scorecard, and basically what we're looking at is I just want to see if I can do something, what effort did it take from me? How much time did it take? Who was involved? And I created like an ROI, like it's usually return on investment, called
Mm-hmm.
return on impact. So it's
Mm-hmm.
just a formula. It's like, okay, you can
Okay.
look at what your return on impact is. And the funny thing I noticed is too, you can, and I put into the tracking also your own mood. Because I noticed when you help other people, you feel better. So if you notice things, it's like, okay, I do these things and I'm noticing my own mood is better as well. A lot of people, that's really important too, because like some people are down, go help someone. You're gonna
Mm-hmm.
help them, and it's just the chemicals in your brain, you feel better,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Because
So
it helps you to identify a sense of value. I mean, in in a spiritual personal development framework, that is definitely something. It's about finding where your value is and how do I give that away? Because it helps to deepen that sense of value and appreciation for yourself, which when you're in a really depressed state, you're depressed because you can't appreciate and find value in yourself and in your
right.
life and in the way that it is. So finding a way to give something or of yourself is helps to build that back up. So that makes sense to me, even from a psychological standpoint. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's basically the rules. It's just like it's not like a board game. There's no real score. The only score is you keep with yourself, like, hey, I did this, I feel better. And the really cool thing is most of the things you're not going to see. It's like you
Mm-hmm.
do something. For example, say you work with people that deal with homeless. Like I know that I have some friends that they go downtown Pittsburgh every week and they round up people and they feed like 100, homeless people every
Good for
week.
them.
Well, what if you donated shoes or underwear or something for them? You know that you did something, but you never get to see the person who received it. So it's like you get to imagine, but you never know. So it's kind
Mm.
of cool too, because it's just like, I wonder what happened, you know?
Just toss it out in the universe, so to speak.
Yep.
Brian, what's the thing that you've learned from writing the book about yourself, about your own experience?
What I learned from writing a book, well, number one, that I could do it. Like writing a book was,
Ooh,
it was like, so I'm always thinking of like, but that'd be really cool to write a book. And like, I don't even know how to write a book, you know? And and the thing I learned too, which I do in all my life too, it's like take the first step. It's like so to write this book, I learned I don't have to know how to write the book. I just have to learn how to free write. And then once I do that, and it's like I free write for 30 minutes a day for a couple months. After I did that, then it's like, okay, what's the next step? And you learn as you go versus a lot of times it's like I need to figure out how to write the whole book and figure out design and editing and everything before you start. And then you never start.
mm-hmm.
So that's one thing. It's like that I could do it myself too, because a lot of people write books and they ghostwrite them, which is fine. But I wanted to write it myself.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Hmm.
But internally in yourself, was there something as you worked through the process and putting all of this down on paper, was there something that you like internally got about yourself, like
Well,
in a deeper way or a deeper understanding?
yeah, like on a deeper level, I look at something's telling me to write the book. Like it's like something that I'm supposed to do.
Mm,
Like I don't necessarily. It's like almost like I'm faithful. I'm a Christian. I'm like, okay, God, like you want me to write a
right.
freaking book? I'm gonna write the book. I don't know why,
Yeah.
but I'm just gonna do this. So it brought like a more of a connection on the faith side. if that's what you're,
Okay. Yes,
because
that's
it's
what I'm
like,
asking.
yeah, because it's like, okay, I'm just gonna do this. I don't know why. I'm putting it out there. There's probably a reason for it. I don't really need to know the reason, but I feel this is like my thing that I'm supposed to do at this time. So that's kind of what I got there.
Is that what made you say yes?
Say yes for.
That you it somewhere in you you recognize that it was more than an idea to write the book, that it was more of a calling, that it was something that God was asking you to do.
It is, and the weird thing is, I felt it. So I always think, which well, I don't always think. I started to learn, like for the last 15 years. I'm like, okay, I'm supposed to do something, and I try to do it immediately. So with this, it's been festering in my head for like 15 years, and I try things and it didn't work, and it almost taught me patience too. It's like, okay, you have to be patient and do things when you're supposed to do them. So it's like, okay, I just need to like keep my eyes open. Maybe the right people will pop up, or maybe the right situations will pop up. And I need to be aware when it pops up of that situation to take advantage. It's like, hey, I'm giving you, it's time to go now. But also know it's like when you're driving, you got to know when to press the gas and know when to pull off.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of realized that with this whole thing too, because it's like literally 15, 20 years in the making, but it
Mm-hmm.
only happened this year. And a lot of times I wanted to do things in the past. Like, for example, one of my friends told me way back in the days, like, dude, you got to go out and make money to support yourself before you can go help other people. Like, you can't help people when you're broke.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, that point in my life, it's like, okay, that wasn't the time. And you have to be okay with that. So, me, I just think it's like, I just kind of try to feel it, if that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense.
It does make sense to me. It
Yeah.
definitely does. And it was about a divine timing thing, which is it, it really says a lot about you as a person, that there was some part of you that was kind of sensitive or tuned in enough to go, I know there's something here and I know it's not time for me to press at that. Because even from what very little I know about you, just listening to you, you are what I would say is a make it happen person. Like it's full speed ahead, like, yep, let's just get this done. Let's do it. We can do it. And so the fact that there was something kind of, my phrase is always percolating, there's something percolating going on, and you're like willing to just kind of allow it to be until you get a nudge that says now is the time. I think that says a lot about you.
And that's hard too. Yeah. It's because I am like a make it happen person. It's like, I check stuff off. Like, it's
Hmm.
like, give me the list. I'm
That's
going
why
to
you got
bang them off.
KPIs and tracking systems, and you want to be able to quantify an ROI, even for giving.
Right.
That's who you are. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're right. So yeah, and I had to learn that. It's
Mm.
like because sometimes I found if I try forcing things, the outcome's not good. Either I burn out or my life turns to chaos or different things like that. It's like, okay, I'm doing things I'm not supposed to be doing, basically.
That's the getting punched in the face, right?
Yep. Oh yeah.
Because I'm exactly the same, and so it's one of the things that I teach and tell people as much as they'll listen to me is that when shit starts falling apart, when it feels like my life is turning slowly into a dumpster fire, then I have been forcing things that I was not supposed to be forcing. Then I
Right.
was making things happen that were not aligned for who I was really being called to be or what I was really being asked to do.
And then when your dumpster fire is going on, it's hard to take that step back and even think that because you're in panic mode. You're like, oh
Sometimes.
crap, like everything's going down. And then you got to sit and it's like hard because you'd be like, okay, shit's hitting the fan. Let me take a step back here and like try to see what I should be doing here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I know it makes me think too, like how some people will use kind of this giving as a way to spiritually bypass, for the lack of a better term, but to say like, oh, I don't feel great, so I'm just gonna, oh, I'm just gonna dive into this, because there has to be some balance about also understanding what you need to face in yourself and
Mhm.
making yourself kind of the charity that deserves your focus to get it right. and not to distract yourself with overgiving and being a volunteer for this and that and in a way that is causing you to not really face your own shit.
Right. Yeah, because you got to be strong yourself to you got to be healthy to help others, or you have to help yourself first.
Hmm.
You can't help anybody else if you're sick
Yeah.
or mentally out of it or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But people do.
All the time. I've done it. That's how I know about burnout. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Bryan, thank you so much for being here. This was awesome. I loved learning about your book. I loved learning about your story. Tell everyone where they can get the book and where they can connect with you and learn more about you.
Sure. So you can go to goodnessgame.com. You can take the tests we were talking about on there too, like the helper's test, get
Mm.
the energy audit. I have the book on there for free also. So if you can't afford the book, you can download the PDF for free, no cost. Or you can buy the hard copy on Amazon. Check that out. Challenge for everybody listening, just in the next month, try to do one thing. And if you do, shoot me an email. I don't want to hear what you did, but just let me know that you did something. Or I'm always interested in people's stories too on what did somebody do for you that made a
Mm.
big difference in your life that they don't even know that was like something small for them? Like if
Mm.
anyone has any stories like that too, those are always pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. I definitely love that. It's been something that sometimes we don't realize how truly just talking to somebody, a stranger in a store, can really have made all the difference to them in their life. And we don't
Yeah.
know. So I love that at the heart, at the biggest message there in what you're doing and what your book is saying is that it can be those little things. It doesn't have to be some big grand gesture.
Yeah, you know what? On that, before you go,
Yeah.
I'll tell you on that specific point. The people I know that deal with the homeless, like the
Mm-hmm.
homeless every week,
Mm-hmm.
they have one guy down there who's really large, right? Normally doesn't fit in normal clothes. So one of the volunteers bought underwear for him, took him down, gave him to him, and the thing that mattered to this guy was not that the guy bought him stuff, but he remembered his name. Like,
Yeah.
so it's just like different things like that. That guy just because homeless people are just like ignored,
Mm-hmm.
and it made him feel like a person. So sometimes it's not even
Yeah.
buying them things. Sometimes it's just even being aware
Yeah.
that people are there, being empathy. You know what I mean?
Is to be able to look somebody in the eye. I always say I feel like my biggest mission is to just give moments every day where people feel seen and heard. And sometimes that's strangers, and sometimes that's people in my life, and sometimes that's me.
Right?
But but I deeply believe that making someone feel seen and heard is the biggest and most impactful thing that we can do. And I think that what you are doing is helping people make more people feel seen and heard. So kudos to you. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. To all the sojourners out there listening, please don't forget to like and comment on this episode, subscribe to Realign Journey, and as always, I will see you next time.